Hey everyone, welcome back to our series on how much money can my small business make with federal contracts. I'm Michelle Brown with FedBiz Exchange, and this is our federal contracting series. We do this special on how much money can I make with my small business because we want you to understand that there are real businesses out there all over the country making multi millions in the double digits, and that can be you if you really want to, but you got to make the decision to do it. So this is the second example of marketing. How much money can I make selling advertising services to federal buyers and federal agencies? And of course, every agency needs some form of advertising. We just wanted you to understand that there are a lot of different categories that fall under marketing. Advertising is one of them. So let's just walk through our second example. Our first example was of a company that was just getting started, a little bit smaller. Sometimes that's a perfect example. There are other times where some of you are already multi-million-dollar companies. You just want to take your business to the next highest level, which could make you maybe a $10 million company or a $30 million company. So, but we all have to start in the same place. We really do. Somebody has to learn how to start somewhere from the beginning. So let's look at our second example under marketing. And this particular company, they sell the advertising services to federal buyers. So let's jump right into it. I want to remind you that in the previous video, we looked at how much money is being spent under marketing for small businesses nationwide, whether they're just small business or small disadvantaged business, woman-owned, veteran, it doesn't matter. $333 million was spent in 2017 all the way up until now, which we are in the second quarter of 2018. So remember, fiscal years start in October 1st of every year going into the new year. So this company falls under this same exact category, except they're doing advertising. Remember, this 333 million covers all of these areas: advertising, marketing, everything. Just to remind you, when you're doing your own research, you could find marketing consulting under these codes. You could find advertising for indoor and outdoor. You could find advertising agencies if that's what you are. You could find advertising distribution. You could find direct mail services and other related advertising services, public relations, public outreach, graphic design services, and the codes for all of these would be, and I'm giving these all to you because I ran this report this way because I wanted to get some different examples of some different companies and the codes that they're using. The codes are 541810, 541870, 541860, 541850, 541890, 541820, 541613. You should use any and all of those codes to discover or to determine which codes you should use to find opportunities. I just gave them to you. So if you were to go to fbo.gov and make sure you're set up to receive notifications of opportunities for marketing, you could get all of these or you could get a few of these. It's up to you. You decide which ones by doing just a little bit more research. You also could use the PSC code 9905. And there's another one that I didn't put in here. I put it in the previous video. R, like in Randy, 708. That's a PSC code under marketing too. Okay, so let's get on to our next business profile. Our next business profile is A Bright Idea, LLC. Very interesting name. I like that name. So they are a small disadvantaged business, of course. Their certifications are woman-owned, and they are also an 8A graduate, which means that they could have had some really good successes as an 8A small business. And we'll talk a little bit more about what 8A is and what it does, and the myths and the truths about 8A, because there are a lot of misconceptions about 8A. It's a wonderful program, but you need to understand it before you go into it. They also have a GSA schedule, which is what we call a contracting vehicle. As you can see in the other videos, I did not have that contracting vehicle in there, even though one of our examples under office supplies was under a GSA contract, but I decided to go ahead and make a special slot for that, because you can have regular certifications like WOSB and EDWOSB and veterans and all of that. But your contracting vehicle, and I mentioned this, but I should have a special slot for it. A contracting vehicle can make a difference. It's just another way of doing business with the federal government. So a GSA schedule, I'll talk to you about what that is in a little bit more detail. I've mentioned it before, but it's a whole animal within itself, and it does take a lot of education. So I will definitely do some videos on GSA schedule. But they're a woman-owned business. They're 8A graduate, meaning you can be in the 8A program for 9 years. Look like they've graduated. I believe they graduated in 2015. So, even though they can't use their 8A anymore, they can definitely use their WOSB as a set-aside opportunity in addition to the regular small business set-aside. They are also in advertising, public relations, graphic design, and publications. So they have about 4 different categories that they've been slotted into with the federal agency buyers, meaning they have sold services under each of these 4 categories based on the report and as noted on the report. They have 32 employees. They represent annually $5.7 million. That's their annual revenue. At least it was when they first started, or at some point, because that can change every year. And then the contracts awarded, we take a peek at 2017, 16, and 15. The NAICS code that has been used over and over again based on the report is 541820. So this is why you need to do your research, because 541820 is also used for public relations, but I found that code in this report under advertising as well. So remember what I said, you must follow the buyer, not what the industry tells you to do. I'm not saying it's wrong. You could keep those industry codes. It's just that when you do your homework, I don't want you to be surprised that the federal buyer is not using the same codes you're using. And if you're WOSB, you can only get a set aside for the codes that are under the WOSB. WOSB is the only certification program that has its own codes. So you need to be careful of that as well. So you would include your WOSB codes as well as your regular NAICS codes. And then you would also use your PSC codes if you wanted to run a report or if you wanted to connect to an agency. So your PSC codes would be R as in Randy 708, R as in Randy 701. Those are the codes that a Bright Idea is using. And those are the codes they use to win, because that's what the federal agency was using. Or those are the codes the agency and the buyer was using. So in 2017, it looks like a Bright Idea won $3.8 million. Good job. That's outstanding for a small business, and especially as an 8A company. I'll talk to you more about, sometimes the misconceptions that people believe just because you're 8A, these things drop in your lap. They don't. You should get more help, but most of the time you don't, and I'll talk to you about that in detail. But they did 3.8 million in 2017, which was just last fiscal year. In 2016, they did 8.9. That's better than outstanding. So they made a huge jump, landed probably a public relations campaign, some advertising, whatever it was, they did an awesome job. So in 2016, they were at 8.9. And actually, if we look at it, it kind of goes backwards. They got less in 2017 and more in 2016. Of course, it looks like they've been doing this for a little bit of time. They were in the 8A program. I know that because in the 8A program, you have to be in there for 9 years. And if they've graduated, that means they've been in it for 9 years. So they probably weren't receiving much of anything in the beginning. And it happens that way. Sometimes people get in there, and I will tell you secrets about how that can be different for you once you get in the 8A program, but it's horrible. It could take you 5-6 years to get an 8A contract, which is not how it has to be. But you'll have some agency people, specifically SBA, sometimes telling you that's how it is, and that's not how the program was designed to be. You're allowed to make up to $100 million in the 8A program unless it's changed, but don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't be winning contracts right away. This is why you learn how to do these things before you get into the 8A program. Okay, so in 2016 they did 8.9. And then in 2015, they didn't do too bad either. They did 7.6. They went down a little bit in 2017, as we noted, but overall, they did pretty good. Now, if you look at this chart, like I said, they've been in for 9 years, but if you look at this chart, you will see only did they start winning big in the last 4 years, which to me means they probably could have done even better had someone given them the proper help. And again, when you get in the 8A program, you can't really depend on the SBA. You have to be ready to hit the ground running as soon as you receive the certification. There are regulations that say that they're supposed to help you, but most of the districts, they are not helpful that way. You have to do it yourself. So, and I'll talk to you about what that is. I don't like when people get into the 8A program and they have a total misconception of what's going to happen. They're right to believe that they're supposed to get this help, but they never really do. So you don't have time to mess around with people. You go get it yourself. That's the way I like to teach, and we teach people to fish, not to wait on government people to help you get something that you've already earned, and something, if you've already gotten to that point, more than likely your company is successful enough to get in the program. But this is a great example of a company that did well the last few years. But can you imagine if they were getting $3 to $10 million every single year? They could be a $30 million, $40 million company by now, but they weren't getting that. So, and not to say that they're not doing that on the commercial side, but that's what the 8A program is supposed to help them do. It's supposed to be a government contracting development program. Okay, so overall, last 4 years in federal, they've done okay. And then one more, 2018, they haven't gotten anything as of yet. And remember, they are still a WOSB, so they could still get contracts under their WOSB, and hopefully they will. They could get up to 4 million, and we know they're not manufacturing, so they wouldn't get 6 million, but they could get up to $4 million under their set aside for WOSB, and they could get even more than that just as a regular small business entity. Okay, so I expect that this company will continue to do well. The agencies they've been working with are the Department of Justice. You see the Department of Justice, on average, they won about $2.5 million from the Department of Justice. The Department of Defense, about $731,000. The Department of Health and Human Services, about $561,000. And then they haven't really won anything under the SBA or GSA, even though they have a GSA contract. And I shouldn't say that. I'll say this. This is an average, so this may be showing just for 1 year. We could run a report under this company and under their GSA to see if they won any GSA contracts. But it is a vehicle that they have, so they can continue to win contracts. So this was another great example, and thank you for joining me to learn with me, but I want you to remember the most important thing is that you too can win federal contracts. All you got to do is make a decision. And I'd like to start asking people to subscribe as soon as they feel comfortable. But, you know, you want to make sure we're going to be here. We're going to keep giving information, and I promise that we will. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to do. We really want to educate small businesses nationwide, as we've been doing for the last 13 years, except we're doing a little bit different now. We're not just doing it in person, we're also doing it all over the web. So thank you for joining me today, and watch out for more industries that can help you decide if you want to go after the federal contracts. Please leave me your comments and start subscribing, and I will see you in the next video.